Finance too.
Most of those recommendations still apply to Pennsylvania. There are some things that we've improved rather imperfectly, and there are many issues out there, including the water withdrawal thing, which we've got some sort of a handle on, although it's quite fragmented in the way it's regulated in Pennsylvania. We still have a long way to go. And one thing I think I bring to this, the perspective that I bring to this discussion is that the development of these regulations occurs, at least in Pennsylvania, in a very highly charged political context. And it also occurs with players that bring different resources to the table to be able to promote their point of view. In Pennsylvania, we've attracted major industry players into Pennsylvania, and they have staked quite a big political ground in our state. They've invested millions of dollars in our political campaigns. They've spent millions of dollars lobbying our regulators and our state legislators over the last 2 years. In this election cycle right now, we are in the middle of a gubernatorial campaign. We will be electing a new governor in November, and the gas industry has given almost $1 million. We are a state where there's unlimited campaign contributions to the Republican candidate for governor, Tom Corbett, but they've also been quite generous to the Democrat as well. They're going to spread their bets. The struggle to get the regulatory regime in place that really would adequately control this happens in that kind of a political context. And when you folks face this kind of similar situation, I'm guessing that the politics won't be exactly the same. Maybe they'll be a little easier. I don't know. I'm not real familiar with politics up here in Canada. But nevertheless, there will be that context. And I think that bringing information and science to the table is very important, but also educating the public and making sure people understand what the choices are going to be equally as important. One of the things that we're facing in Pennsylvania is the scale of the development of the gas resources. Hard to actually get your mind around. 1/4 of all Pennsylvania acres, 1/4 of the state, is leased by the gas industry for gas drilling, including 1,500 acres underneath several Catholic cemeteries in the city of Pittsburgh. That is how desperate the gas company is to lock up, the gas industry is to lock up those leases. And now, because of that, because of this rush to lease land, there's an equal impetus to start drilling, regardless of the price of gas right now. It's almost as if the leases that they sign are typically like 5 years long. If they don't get a well producing, they've got to renegotiate the leases after 5 years. So this is driving a rush to actually do some drilling. And the scale of drilling and the pace of drilling right now in Pennsylvania is limited only logistically by the ability to get rigs into the state to do the work. So it's divorced almost from the price of gas, which right now is abysmally low. If you look at it, I mean, I just looked at online yesterday. The Henry Hub price was $3.59 for 1,000 cubic feet. That's terrible. Nevertheless, the gas industry proceeds apace in Pennsylvania to get the drilling, to nail down those leases to make sure that they've got that resource in the future. One of the other things that I think would bear looking into, particularly in a populous area like Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, we've got drilling going on in very populated areas in the southwestern part of the state. In the north, central, and northeastern parts of the state, the best places for drilling are actually in fairly rural areas. They're not near, though, as remote as we saw in the pictures from British Columbia. They're in a fairly populated area. And one of the other things that we've been seeing is there are some very big community impacts that are occurring, that are placing strains on local infrastructure and local social services, having a big impact on availability of affordable housing, which has a big domino effect in terms of, you know, putting further strains on social services. We've got new demands on emergency preparedness personnel, first responders that were never there before with this sort of, the Marcellus Shale development in Pennsylvania is, you can characterize it as this dispersed industrialization of the landscape is essentially what you've got. And it just brings all kinds of new problems to local governments that never had the capacity to deal with this. You're talking about local governments, which is very fragmented in Pennsylvania, very underfunded, very understaffed, without the capacity to really deal with these things. And there's a whole host of social and cultural and local issues that are really interesting that I could get into a little bit later. There are other issues as well in populated areas that you may want to look into. There are, you know, leasing issues because the leasing is done in private. Some landowners do better than other landowners. Some people get better deals than others. Some of the leases have more protective environmental provisions in them that people should know. So there needs to be some more transparency in leasing. The local government, the extent to which they've got the power to regulate operations of these sites. And then one issue that's extremely controversial in Pennsylvania, and that's forced pooling, where if a certain percentage of landowners in a given area agree to do the leasing, but you've got holdout landowners who don't want to lease, those holdout landowners under forced pooling can be forced to accept a lease and forced to give up their, they'll be compensated, but they'll be forced to lease their mineral rights to the gas company. Those are things that will probably be interesting for future folks to look at, but I really think that this is a very good start, and I'm very glad to be here, so thank you.